What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome back to Warriors Latest. As always, I am your host, Max Arizin. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoy the show today, as I do post new Warriors videos daily. Now, after this long summer, opening night tip-off is finally here. And I gotta say, I've had enough of football. I've had enough of baseball. I'm ready for some basketball. And with this Laker game that I know I've talked about multiple times before. I still think it's going to be a major tone setter, and I think it's also going to be a gauge of how we play just top tier teams in general. I know a lot of guys say you always got to take preseason with a grain of salt. You can't take it too seriously. Starters aren't playing, and I get that. And to a certain degree, you're right. I do believe that building momentum with your younger guys helps you into the season, but that's just me personally. But now the games count. And I'm fairly certain that when the Warriors start the season 1-0, things are just going to continue to go up from there. But again, it is their first big test because looking through their schedule up until December 25th, they're playing a lot of playoff teams. So I'm concerned how they're going to face those playoff teams, but I am confident versus the Lakers because you know what? We're going up against the team that's LeBron-less, but still has Luka Doncic, and he's part of that next generation of player to go along with the likes of Marcus Smart and DeAndre Ayton. Now, I know I overcredit Ayton a lot, but the way he's been able to handle Quentin Post, and while we have been able to stretch the floor with Al Horford, I don't know how many minutes he's going to be playing effectively tonight. And thinking about that, it gives me a bit of pause because what if they just start dishing it down to Ayton nonstop because we're always doubling Luka? Now, may that happen? Probably. But it's up to guys like Quentin Post and guys like Al Horford and even Draymond to really be that physical beast first night. And I want to see how physical they're really going to get. Because, as I said, the games count now, and they really have to come out of the gate strong. But thinking about their overall schedule, there are a lot of tough games in these first 20 games going into the season. I got to say, looking at these predictions, they had the Warriors, I think, 20-7 by Christmas Day. That's a lot of confidence with this Warriors team. Don't get me wrong, I have that confidence in them too, but it's a very large hill to climb, and they're going to climb it, but it's not going to be easy. I was looking at a lot of these teams, and the majority of them, yes, 12 are playoff teams in those first 20 games, but the 8 that aren't all have legitimate 7-foot starters as well as 7-foot backups. And I'm curious to see how the Warriors do against those kinds of teams because, yes, they play up to the better teams. Like, I'm sure they're going to play up to the Lakers. They're going to play up to Oklahoma City. They're going to play up to Denver. They're going to play up to those guys and beat them. But for guys, say, like Sacramento, Portland, who else? Just those Washington, those bottom feeder teams that while I hope they do well this season, my hopes aren't that high. And I'm not sure how they're going to do. Are they going to blow them out? Or are they going to really be taken on a ride by these teams because they've got nothing to lose? So the playoff teams, I have confidence we're going to beat them, but I'm not certain about these non-playoff teams because they see the Warriors and they see, oh, this team is old, but they believe they're going to be the best team in the league. That's a target on your back. So we'll see how that goes going into the first 20 games. But again, these 7-footers are very concerning because I like Post. I like what he's doing. I love how he's progressing. But we need him to take that big step going into this season. And yes, we do have Steph, we do have Draymond, we do have Jimmy. And that's going to be a trifecta of just offensive prowess because you got Jimmy driving to the basket, you got Steph with the fastest 3 in the NBA, and he's going to make those threes. So it's going to get the Warriors have the ability to blow teams out if they get going early. And they still had that ability to really turn it on in the second half, given their momentum from last year, as well as the games they've played in the preseason so far. So I want to see how, if that continues going into these 20 games, and see, you know what, 12 playoff teams, let's see if they could get 10 wins against these 12 playoff teams, and maybe ring off 5 or 6 against the non-playoff teams. I definitely could see that happen, and it's a good start to the season, especially when I believe 2 or 3 of those games in the first 20 are NBA Cup games. And how funny would it be to really set that tone, going into the playoffs, winning the NBA Cup? And I know the NBA Cup, it's nice, but it's not the NBA title. Let's be honest. But I look at it, since it's evolved. Look at it as, say, if you watch college ball, it's a Christmas season tournament. And it's something to really get you going into the Christmas Day games and then into the New Year and second half of the season. So you got to take it like that. That should be a first minor goal, and then you go higher, going greater at the Christmas Day game, and then your top seed by the halftime at the NBA All-Star break. You maybe need to make a move or two at the deadline, but who knows? But you're in the driver's seat. And again, that's what these first 20 games do, along with those NBA Cup games. That being said, I did notice something interesting today. And that was, there were a lot of great players that didn't get rookie scale extensions. And I was really surprised about that, because several of these names were names you wouldn't expect to not receive a rookie. Well, some of them were, but some of them you expected to at least get a team-friendly deal in exchange for that guarantee. And 3 names that really came off the bat were Jalen Duren, Walker Kessler, as well as Jaden Ivey. Now, Jaden Ivey, I kind of get, but he's just too talented to not at least give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think the same thing goes with Duren as well as Walker Kessler. Now with Duren, he basically mopped the floor in the post for Detroit against New York last season in the playoffs. And with Kessler, he was a block machine. And I think those are guys that the Warriors need to look at come the trade deadline. Say Jonathan Kuminga shouldn't work out. All right, you move him. He's a manageable contract. You move him and his extra year of team guarantee over to the likes of Detroit. Maybe get Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey. You throw in a first-round pick over there. I could definitely see that happen. Or even with the likes of Utah Jazz, they trade Kuminga, go trade him for Walker Kessler, maybe some other players that work well with the team, and additional contracts. And maybe they have to give up a second-round pick. Who really knows? But I definitely could see them maybe going after some of Detroit's, I guess, depth. Because they're at that point where they need secure guys in their starting 5. And if they don't have those secure guys in their starting 5, they're never going to make that leap from the 6th seed into a top 4 seed, which they showed they can be when they played the Knicks last season in the playoffs. I was watching that series. They took him for a ride. As good as Mitchell Robinson is as a defensive player, Jalen Duren was moving him around like he was made of sticks. So take that as you will. Him with the Warriors, though, would be something to behold. Yes, he can't stretch the floor, and I do get that, but combining him with the likes of Post as well as Al Horford, he could be that guy that constantly gets the rebound and, say, dishes it back to Steph for the quick 3, or even when Seth eventually signs, dishes it to Seth for a quick 3, or just a quick pump fake by Jimmy Butler, or even to Draymond Green, who could move the ball around, or maybe even to Al Horford, should he be playing the 4. So there's so many options with a guy like Duren on, in the post, and being able to move players around. He could physically be with the likes of Rudy Gobert, with the likes of a DeAndre Ayton, with the likes of, say, Isaiah Hartenstein, with the likes of Alperen Şengün. He can physically move those guys around. He's that strong. And I think that's exactly what the Warriors need, because it reminds me of Andrew Bogut and how much he could really move guys around. He wasn't the offensive force you would think you'd get from a number one pick, but he was that physical force that you needed in the post. So don't be surprised if come, say, the deadline or even January 15th and Detroit's doing semi-well, but they need to fill some holes, that they look to trade Jalen Duren to bring in a guy like Kuminga, or maybe even other reinforcements from the Warriors, along with a first-round pick in exchange for Duren. So don't be surprised if that happens. Yeah, it may be a long shot, but if it isn't going to be him, it could be Walker Kessler. Now, bottom line is the Warriors tonight are making their first step in the long road to be NBA champions. Now, we've experienced this before. We know what it takes as diehard Warriors fans to win an NBA championship. We've seen it 4 times. And even the ones we lost, we saw what it took to get there. And even if when we got there, things had to go wrong for us to lose. Now, we know how important this game is going to be for the Warriors. It's going to be a tone setter, and it's going to be maybe a very tight game because everybody's going to be healthy, save LeBron, and everybody's going to be just completely at it in that singular mindset, like it's one game at a time, but we're all in the NBA Finals. So I definitely see this being one of those games where it's just tight throughout. And it's going to be a thrilling matchup between both the Lakers as well as the Warriors. And I could definitely see Steph winning this game on a buzzer beater 3. Don't be surprised, but I'm just saying. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoyed the show today. And if you have any final score predictions for the Lakers-Warriors game tonight, feel free to comment below, as I love to hear your thoughts. And as always, go Dubs.